Hello and welcome to the Indiana State Police Public Information Program. I'm your host today, Senior Trooper Dave Burston from the Indianapolis State Police Post. We have a very special guest today, Brooke Billingsley, and she's from the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Indiana. And we're going to be talking about the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the different things that they do. Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I think the first question to ask for some people that may not be aware of the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Indiana is, what do you do?
We have a real simple mission statement. We grant the favorite wish of a child under the age of 18 who has a terminal or sufficiently life-threatening illness.
And how do you find out about these children?
Through our community outreach program, we get referrals through the medical community and parents, and every time we have a special event or volunteers spreading the word so the word gets out about the foundation.
So basically from people that just refer children or somebody that's maybe heard about you before, and I take it you're listed in the phone book, and you've got an 800 number too, don't you?
We do. They can call our 800 number, and if somebody's listening to this show and knows of a family that may have a child that may be eligible, we ask that they tell the family about it and have them give us a call.
Well, when they do that, what are some determining qualification factors that Make-A-Wish Foundation looks at?
Basically 3 things: that they be medically qualified, which is determined by their primary doctor, and that they meet the age guidelines. The minimum age guideline is 2.5, and then under the age of 18, and that they've not had a wish granted by another wish granting organization.
So there are other organizations that do grant wishes, and all of them you're all working for the same cause to try and make the life a little bit easier for those that are affected. But you've got to draw the line somewhere, don't you?
Right. There are a lot of children that haven't had a first wish, so we're very conscious of making sure we reach every child in Indiana.
Typically, how do you go about granting a wish?
It's a real unique experience, and frequently I get asked what's a typical wish scenario, and I say it's as unique as you and I are unique. And so we go about doing it after the referrals come in. We fax over information to the medical information to their doctor. Their doctor then lets us know whether or not the child qualifies. Once that occurs, then we go ahead and assign it to volunteers. We rely on over 100 full-time volunteers and 200 extra volunteers each year to help us carry out our mission. And we tell the volunteers, you have a very special wish assignment. They then make an assignment. They call up and make an appointment to go to the family, and that's the neatest part, is they go in and work with the family in filling out some paperwork, and then they sit down and they ask the child what their wish might be, and they say it in such a way that if you could go somewhere, have something, do something, or be someone, what would it be? And then it's up to creativity, whatever the child's imagination comes up with.
That's neat. So the organization has been around for over 10 years now, hasn't it?
Correct. Nationally, we've been here since 1980, and in Indiana since 1983.
How did Make-A-Wish Foundation get started?
Actually started with someone from your background, U.S. Customs officer in Phoenix, Arizona, state trooper. They found this little boy named Chris, 7 years old, who had leukemia, and some children know very early on what they want to be when they grow up, and Chris was always going to be a state police officer when he grew up. And the friends knew that he always was going to do that, and his leukemia progressed, and his mom made some contacts and said, this little boy is just, in awe of being a state trooper when he grows up, and it doesn't look like he's going to have that opportunity. Is there something we can do? Well, they went ahead and gave him his own badge and his own uniform, took him on a helicopter ride. He got to help drive a patrol car, and basically was a state trooper for a day. Gave him an honorary ceremony. And 3 days later, when Chris was in the hospital, he asked to have his uniform and his helmet so that he could see it from his bedside. And he died like the next day. It was like a 4-day period he died. They gave him a full policeman's funeral, and on his gravestone they put our littlest trooper, Chris.
That's sweet. And I bet that had to do a lot for the family too.
And the media hit it,
Yeah.
and it hit the wire, and everyone who saw the story was very touched, and they said, there's got to be other kids out there that have the same type of situation that could use a wish and really would inspire them to get better and give them some hope in what seems like such a tragic scenario. So.
Well, it's kind of neat for people that maybe have heard of Make-A-Wish before, but really didn't know that its foundation really kind of started with law enforcement in a sense. So you mentioned, because it is national, and talking about where it started in Phoenix, how many chapters are there across the country now?
We're the world's largest wish granting organization to date. We have 81 chapters nationally and 13 international affiliates.
And you're nonprofit, correct?
Correct. We're 501c3.
So you get most of your money, all of it is from donations or endowments or things of that nature. How do you go about raising money?
The ongoing challenge of fundraising is always there. Relying on people, very generous people in Indiana. I've found people are very giving, and people who don't have very much are the most giving. And the $5 and $10 checks that we get in do add up, and they do help contribute to making the wishes come true. So that all adds in together to help us each year meet our goal.
Well, while we're on that subject, why don't you go ahead and give the 800 number that people can call in case any of our viewers watching this want to make a contribution of either not only just money, but also of time and volunteering, because everybody is a volunteer, aren't they?
Right. We only have 2.5 people in our office that run the whole state.
2.5?
2.5. We have a part-time accountant,
Okay.
But we rely on volunteers, and anyone who's listening who's interested. It's a neat organization to be involved with, and I'm partial, of course, but they can call 1-800-967-9199, and that's a voicemail service, so they can leave us a detailed message, and we'll get information out to them right away.
Okay, and for any of our viewers that didn't get that number right off, we're going to put that up on the screen. As a matter of fact, it may be up there now, and we'll be sure to show it again before the end of the program. Now, you get your funds from people that volunteer to make donations. You get some from endowments. How is the money used? What percentage of that actually goes out to being used in granting a wish?
We have to maintain 80% going back to the program, to the wishes at all times, according to our standards from our national office. And I know that last year we had 5% administrative costs, so we keep our administrative costs very low. We have donated office space, just got our long distance service donated. So a lot of those things in-kind donations contribute to us being able to give more back to the wish.
I think that's important for people to know in this day and age, because you hear about fundraising scams and you find out that the organization only gets 25 cents of every dollar that's collected. So your goal is to make it 80 cents of every dollar, and in most cases you're doing much better than that, aren't you?
Right.
So.
And also what people need to realize is that we don't fundraise by telemarketing or going door to door. So if somebody does do that with them, I really encourage them to find out who the organization is and what they're collecting for, so that they're sure that the money is going in the right place.
And something else to keep in mind is it's my understanding that people that donate in Indiana, that money, not only 80 to 85% or more of it's being used to grant the wish, but that's being used to grant wishes for stricken Indiana children.
Correct.
So it was formed in 1980, and you've got, now what, 1983, wasn't it? Or
Here in Indiana, 1983.
In 83 and 80. So there's now coming up on 16 years of history with it. What kind of unique wishes have been granted over these 16 years?
There's a couple that stand out in my mind. One we just did recently, and it's an occupation wish. We don't get a lot of occupation wishes, and this particular boy has a brainstem tumor, and he wants to be a pilot when he grows up. So his wish was to be a pilot, and it just so happened that there's an air show up north that was going to do a fundraiser for Make-A-Wish in conjunction with their air show. So I called the coordinators of the show, and I said, "You'll never believe this. We've got this teenage boy, his name's Michael, and he's got a brainstem tumor, and his wish is to be a pilot. Is there some way we can get him involved with the air show?" And they made him the VIP guest for the weekend. They did a flight suit for him, his own name. He had all the tools, his logbook. He flew in on a small plane, and when he got there, everyone who could take him up in their warbird did. So he logged as many hours in one weekend as some pilots that are starting out may dream of doing. And he was presented the key to the city in Elkhart, and the Harrier pilots were there, and they gave him a special package. And we got a lovely letter back from his mom saying that it came at the right time because he was just facing some bad news about the tumor and the progression of the tumor, and that he was getting ready to go in for treatment again. But that he'd had this videotaped, and so now he had a videotape of the experience, and he could go back and relive the memories while he was facing the challenge of the illness.
That's great. That really is nice. What are, talking about unique ones, what's your most, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you fill us in. What's your most requested wish from young children?
Disney World.
Disney World. What a surprise.
Yeah, it's very popular.
With looking at going to Disney World, I'm sure that you're looking at also concerns about the family. Obviously, you just don't take the child there with a volunteer. You're looking at taking care of the family's needs also. And all of those costs, how are those handled?
What we do is we really make it burden-free to the family. From the point that the wish starts, the limo picks them up to take them to the airport if it is a travel wish, to the point where they don't have to worry about spending money or souvenirs or a rental car. Everything is prearranged for them, just as if you or I were to go on our own vacation. And we really make it worry-free for the 6 days that they're down there in Disney World. And once they're down there, they stay at a special village called Give Kids the World. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful villa that they get to stay at with other wish-type families, so they have something to share. And they offer them the whole gamut of activities to participate in down there.
So that virtually is taking care of everything, and the standard, because that's the most requested, I'm sure you have that one refined the most. So they get to spend 6 days and 5 nights there?
Right.
So they're able to see not only just Disney World, they can go to Epcot, MGM, and be able to see everything. And I imagine they do most, do you find that most everybody likes to videotape their wish? Or is that standard that's done? That
happens quite frequently. A lot of pictures, lots of videotapes just to record the memory, because I think what happens is if the child goes back in for treatment or into the hospital, it's a wonderful diversion to pop the tape in and again relive the memory and kind of bring them back to something positive, because that's really what we try to do at Make-A-Wish, is we try to concentrate on the positive. And people will say, well, aren't you an organization there to help dying children? Well, we don't think of it that way. They're challenged by an illness, and a lot of times they can beat the odds, and we like to think that the mind is stronger than the body. And so if we give them something really positive to look forward to, we hope that that's going to encourage them to get better. And we've seen cases where children really have turned around because they're anticipating their wish. So we like to think that positive energy and what Make-A-Wish does helps cultivate them, willing themselves to get better.
So it's literally something to live for.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some specific wishes that have been granted here in Indiana and try to encourage you to become involved either through your monetary support or calling up to be a volunteer. So stay tuned for these messages. We'll be right back.
My wish is to visit my grandparents on their farm and pet the cats and ride the horse and just be able to see them.
My wish is to meet the Golden State Warriors basketball team.
My wish is to get a computer to help me in school.
I wish I had a mountain bike because I really enjoy being outdoors.
I like dinner.
These kids aren't asking for very much. Please, help us give it to them.
Welcome back to the program. One thing that we were talking about just briefly during our break there is to clarify to folks that this is a tax-deductible donation. When you mentioned the 501c, if we have any accountants out there, they know what that means.
Right.
But for people like me and the people watching, you got to spell it out for us. So it is 100% tax-deductible.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are done right here in Indiana. Tell us about some of your favorite wishes that have been granted.
Probably the most unique one was our first international wish for a 14-year-old girl. She was a twin, and she had leukemia, And she was a horse lover, and she first became in love with horses when she went to the zoo and got to ride on the ponies. And from that point started to become very interested and started to subscribe to some of the magazines. And she learned about equestrian camps. And because she had leukemia, she couldn't be inoculated to go to some of the camps that she was reading about in Europe. And she found one in Ireland. And so when the volunteers came in and they asked her, you know, if you could have any wish in the world, what would it be? She said, she went back and excused herself, came back with some brochures, and she said, I'd like to go to Ireland to Greystone, which is an equestrian camp where you actually ride Irish hunter horses in the valley. And you stay at a castle, and you have these old English type or dinners, medieval kind of dinners with the goblets and everything. And so she got to do that for a whole week with her twin sister and her mom and aunt. And she brought back photos and just had a fabulous time.
That's super. That's something obviously that would be cherished by everyone involved for that. That probably brings to mind, some people are thinking, gosh, going to Ireland, the expenses involved. What's the average cost of a wish?
The average cost this past year has been $3,800. But something that we stress, Dave, is real important is that we don't measure the wish by the dollar amount. We really measure it by the memory, because some wishes are very simple. And when a 17-year-old asks for a $100 pair of tennis shoes for his wish, and keep in mind he can have anything he wants, that experience for him is just as important as the child who asked to go to Ireland. And so when we do our training with our volunteers, we really try to get them to understand we're looking at the total experience, and we're looking at the memory that we create, and that the volunteers part of it to enhance it, but not put a dollar amount on it.
Well, speaking of the volunteers and the training, what are some of the things that the volunteers go through to help make it an enjoyable experience for the child?
Well, I think the best job of all of that we do at Make-A-Wishes is being a wish granter. And the wish granter is really the person who kind of puts that seal of special uniqueness to the wish. They add their own little touch, and we call those wish enhancements. So if you were a volunteer going on a wish and the child's asking to go to Disney World, and this is your 4th Disney World wish that you've done, how are you as the volunteer going to make it special for that child? Because it's the only wish that child's going to get. And volunteers have done things like had the fire truck pick them up and bring them to the airport. Give the letter that goes on board when they board the plane that says to the pilot that they have a very special guest on board, so that they make an announcement in flight, that they get the wings, that they go up and get a tour of the cockpit when the plane is landed. All those special touches that are signature of the volunteer taking that extra time to make that wish special for the child.
A lot of things involved. So for one person, if you could kind of walk me through, we'll use the Disney World for example, how many volunteers would be associated with putting that together? I assume you have to coordinate with the Make-A-Wish Foundation in Florida and get some help and input from them also.
I have a program person in the office. That's my other full-time person, Beth, and what will happen is she will work closely with the 2 volunteers that have been assigned to the wish to access all of the in-kind donations. And for people listening who don't know what in-kind means, if you have frequent flyer tickets and donate to us, it's just as important to us as a cash donation, and we call that an in-kind. We have lots of resources with the airlines and different hotels and rental cars, and so Beth will work with the volunteers in coordinating a package so that we can get the best in-kind package.
The best value that you can.
Right.
What is the number of wishes that were granted in Indiana this past year?
We just went from 47 wishes to where we finish our fiscal year at the end of August, and we will have completed around 72 wishes.
So nearly, almost doubled. So is there a nice way without sounding morbid or downbeat, is there a wish goal? Or is there a number of wishes that you try to look for and we want to grant X number, or you just take them as they come?
That's a real good question, because a lot of people want to know how we structure our budget. We do it on historical data, but then when we try to guesstimate how many wishes will come in, because as we discussed earlier, the wishes are referred, so I can't control how many. We never turn down a wish that qualifies. So if the phone starts ringing, let's say after this show, people are watching, they know of certain children that qualify and call in, you can't really gauge, you can kind of plan. So we planned on 60 this year, we're doing 72. So again, next year we'll try to estimate based on our previous growth, how much to estimate for the
So
following.
probably it's in direct correlation as to how much you get the word out and let people know about
Sure.
the organization and how to get a hold of you. So, and I hope that this program helps generate some information, referrals from somebody that knows a child that could benefit from this. Talking about if a wish qualifies. Never like to talk about the negative, but it's only fair to people that are watching the program that they have a full, broad view. Are there things that Make-A-Wish Foundation will not grant?
There are 5 criteria for Indiana, and 4 of them are national policies. We don't do obvious things like cash, homes, automobiles, and firearms. People laugh when I say
probably good.
People laugh when I say firearms. We don't mean an actual gun, but a lot of times hunters. We have a lot of enthusiasts. Their father will ask for a certain hunting rifle, and we don't do that. And we don't do in-ground pools. We're pretty receptive in Indiana. I mean, each chapter can structure based on their territory what their kinds of limits are, but we're pretty open as far as suggestions from the child and creativity that they come up with within reason. I mean, we always look for, will it be a burden to the family? And if the family is having a difficult time economically and they ask for a horse, will the horse be a burden to the family? We take that into consideration. And what we do is we use that as a theme. And the theme may be then we lease a horse for a year for the child, and we have horse riding lessons set up so that we are very creative when it comes up with a theme. So if a child says to me, I want to go to a dinosaur camp, and the yellow pages don't have dinosaur camps, so then what we do is we say, okay, we call our national office, have you had any requests similar to this? And they say, yes, we just did something like that. We'll send him out to Utah, and he'll go on an archaeological dig, and we'll make it a dinosaur theme week.
That all comes back to creativity, doesn't
Sure.
it? So, looking at the creativity that's involved, I'm sure that you've got a number of stories, and not just Indiana, but maybe nationally. It'd be nice to hear some more Indiana ones. What are some other wishes that come back to you as being really special?
I think what touches me is the giving part of people, and I get to see the good part of people. I get to see their good side and what they give. And when I talked about the dinosaur wish, when we coordinated that wish, he actually learned at the first half of his vacation how to dig for them and dust them off. And what they did as an enhancement was the executive director in Utah, her son had cow bones in his closet that he had collected. Now, it's not probably unique to us in Indiana, but
Right.
he had cow bones, and she talked her son Nathan into donating the cow bones for an experience for this child. And what they did is on the last day of his trip, they went to a park where they had pre-buried the cow bones in some loose sand, and they took him over to this area and they said, we heard that there's some dinosaur bones at this park, and we think they might be over at this location. And so when he got over there, he uncovered what he called his dinosaur bones that he took home as souvenirs on the plane. And that's real touching to me, because that was really evoking the true meaning of the wish experience for the child and what the child had come to Utah to do. Those kinds of things touch me. Something that we didn't talk about is special situations like a rush wish.
Oh, yeah, I remember, well, during the break we talked about that you've been able to grant wishes in as little as 24 hours. I imagine those present some unique problems in and of themselves. Tell us about that.
That's tough emotionally. People say, well, how can you do this job? And some volunteers say, well, I'm better fitted doing fundraising, and that's wonderful. We appreciate that. Rush wishes are situations where the doctor said, you need to act now. One that brings to mind for me personally was a call that I got in my office on a Thursday morning at 11 o'clock from this woman who was on the verge of being hysterical and laughing. She would cry one minute and then she'd laugh and she'd say, you're my last resort. I'm calling you from San Diego. My granddaughter has advanced cystic fibrosis. She's at home on oxygen with hospice, and I need to get home to see her. And I explained what Make-A-Wish did, and I said that we grant the favorite wish of the child and that I would need to talk to her granddaughter. So she gave me the number, and we called up, and 9-year-old DeWanda gets on the phone, and you got a picture, and I'm talking to this little girl who's on full oxygen, and she's very weak. And I said, hi honey, this is Brooke with Make-A-Wish, and I have an important question to ask you. If you could have any wish in the world, what would it be? And she said, in a real frail little voice, she said, I want to see my grandma. And I said, okay, that's all I needed to hear. I said, we'll try whatever we can, and started calling the travel agent, and at the time we were having one of our first airfare wars, so travel agencies were bombarded with customers, and called, and we were able to get a ticket, called Graham and said, can you be at the airport in 45 minutes? Your plane leaves at 2:45. Grandma flew in from San Diego that evening. We had a big gift basket waiting for DeWanda with her reunion with her grandmother. Grandmother called me the next morning and said, I can't thank Make-A-Wish enough. She said, DeWanda sat up and ate some cereal this morning. She was so happy to see me. It meant so much to her. That was Friday. I then got a call on Sunday saying that DeWanda had died, and that it was real important that her family was there for her, and that had not Make-A-Wish been a part of that, that wouldn't have come true.
Well, I think you brought up a couple of neat points there. First of all, how flexible Make-A-Wish can be in helping to bring those dreams to reality, and also the point that you make sure it's the child's wish. As I'm sure that families can be under a lot of stress with the impending death of a young child, and sometimes maybe big people wishes might come into play a little bit more than the child's wish. So a lot of efforts go into that, isn't it?
A lot of training, a lot of coaching the volunteer to know that you go in as the advocate for the child, in a lot of ways presenting it to the parent that it doesn't matter economically what status you're at. It just matters that we're there on behalf of 8-year-old Jeremy, who has a special wish, and we know that 8-year-old Jeremy doesn't have the resources to make his wish come true. And the volunteers are very good about that, and if they feel that they're not getting the child's wish, they may schedule a second visit to go back and make sure that it truly is the child's wish. You know, kids are so honest. I mean, they're so candid with you. You know what they want. And if you hear something off the wall, which occasionally, when a 5-year-old girl asks to meet the Dallas Cowgirl cheerleaders, you probably have an inclination that that might not be the case and you should try again.
And then you find out Dad's standing in the background going, yes,
that's right.
That's the wish. So.
But I will say parents want the best for their children, and on the whole, everything always works out for the child.
Any other neat stories that you can share with us?
Probably one that sticks out in my mind. We do a lot of shopping spree type wishes, and we did one for this 17-year-old boy who asked to go to the mall, and we told him that he could have lunch anywhere he wanted, and he said Taco Bell. And we said, no, we said, go all out, pick a place, anywhere you'd ever want to go. And he said, and he came back and he said, if it'd be okay, he said, after the shopping spree, could I go to Olive Garden? I've never been there. Oh, and that was a real telling thing to me personally and to the volunteers to know that, again, it's coming back to the child's frame of reference. And to that child, that was like eating at a 5-star restaurant that maybe you and I go once a year to, or for a special occasion. That was really special. And so we're really tailoring it towards the child and what they think will mean as much to them as in terms of our frame of reference. And when he arrived at the mall, we had a big, on the marquee, welcome. We had his name and welcome to Glenbrook for your special day of shopping. And it just happened. It comes on every 15 minutes that as the limo pulled up, the sign flashed. So things always coordinate uniquely together.
Timing is everything.
It is.
Got a little help from above. Brooke, I want to thank you for spending the time here today to tell people about the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Indiana. I'd like you to give that 800 number again, and I'm pretty sure that we'll get that put up on the screen. So give us that number again. 1-800-967-9199. Okay, and that should be up on the screen now. So if you have the time that you want to be a volunteer, give Make-A-Wish a call. If you'd like to make a donation, either the in-kind, maybe you've got some frequent flyer tickets that you've got that you're not going to use. Maybe you're a business person out there that has something that could be of help to Make-A-Wish. Take the time, make the phone call, brighten up a young child's day. We appreciate you viewing the program, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And as I close every show, the next time you get in your car, please remember to buckle up. The life you save may be your own or that of somebody you love. See you next time.